Well, I'm here with Will Means and Rocky Shay, the director and the star of Junkie. I guess I'll start off with I'm guessing there's some lived experience here because I'm familiar with some of this world and there's way too much completely real details for this to just come completely out of thin air. What was kind of the start of this?
Oh man. Yeah, Rocky, I guess I can take the lead on that.
Yeah, I was about to say, will you take it?
Well, yeah, I guess definitely some lived experience for me. Both Rocky and I are from Georgia, like from the South, and I had definitely come from a family with like a background of addiction, and that had, yeah, I guess just it had influenced a lot of storytelling I wanted to do, and I was sort of having this idea of wanting to do like a story that was drug addiction, but like as an adventure thriller where the addict could be like a superhero, where they actually overcame a lot of really bonkers obstacles to try and do the right thing while still like portraying it accurately. But I didn't want to do like a heavy, like everyone's gunning for an Oscar, like crying every scene movie. And that was the root of it for me. But so then basically I go to Rocky, who I had met like in background work on a film set years earlier and told her I was having this idea. And then Rocky was like, "Oh, well, I should tell you more about my life then," and proceeded to unload on me all the crazy that she had been through. But I don't want to speak for you on what you're willing to share there, Rocky.
Yeah, so I'm pretty open as a book. I'm a recovered addict. I've been clean 10 years. But when Will, brought the premise of the movie that he wanted to make, one thing is, and I told him, I was like, I want it to be real, because that was important to me. And I was like, I tell you what, I have 6 years of journals that I wrote whenever I was heavily in my addiction and also whenever I was getting clean. And I was like, I will happily hand them over to you and you can read what it truly is like to live in that hell. And kudos to Will. He hit the spots perfectly. It's funny because we do some funny stuff. We do, of course, we do hurtful stuff too, but we do in our mind, we rationalize all this crazy, stupid stuff to try to get to a point that we think that we're trying to make it better. And yeah, so Will's right when he says he didn't want to make a movie where you just would cry and it's so sad that he wanted to make it, adventurous. And I think he did with Stevie because, she's funny, but you end up feeling sorry for her. You get disgusted with her sometimes too, but then you end up rooting for her. So yeah, kudos to Will.
I'll
So,
clock you. I'll clock you, Rocky. I'll say one of Rocky's best quotes in going into making it was she's like, yeah, I have a lot of stuff I regret from my times of being an addict. And she was like, but I won't lie, like also some memories I have that were fun as hell were when I was high. So we were like, yeah, let's try and show that like wavelength.
It's got definitely there's a Hollywood version of this movie that's kind of like okay, yeah, I've seen this before, but that's kind of what I like about this because like it hits certain notes that aren't the typical notes that you would see in something like this, where someone would say like, "Don't do drugs are bad," but also they're kind of fun sometimes. You never get that second part in there.
Right, right.
But the character of Stevie, Rocky, you're great in this. I love the character, and I kind of saw this as a love story too, of sorts. Because like Rocky's, you mentioned Stevie as like a superhero, but she kind of, it's love and kind of honor that gets her through the day. It's like she wants to be clean, she wants to do the right thing, and she's doing it all for her son. I really appreciate that about this.
thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that's so important to me because just the stigmatism that people have on addicts that we intentionally hurt people. And that's just totally not the case at all. And you still love your kids, you still love your family, and you just have to let them know. That was the whole point of her, Stevie trying to get to Liam he had to know that it wasn't his fault, that, he had nothing to do with it. And it was never because Stevie didn't love him. It was, she just could not fight and get through the fog to be able to do it. And now that she's on the run and just wanting it, to give him this one last word of encouragement, she's just got, yeah, he has to know that how much she loves him. And that's really the core of Stevie, I think. Just, she doesn't want anybody to think bad of her, obviously, but really it's all about her son, just knowing I just did not want him to think that it was his fault and have to live with that.
He,
Mhm.
You talked about being a recovering addict and clean for 10 years, which congratulations for that.
Thank you.
Was shooting this, was any of it cathartic or did any of it bring you back like, or has it just been 10 years and you just don't think of it the same way that you used to?
Well, actually, it was therapeutic in a way. I can say a lot of people have asked me, how are you able to, do these drugs or whatever and it not trigger you? If anything, it made me just hate it more, just more disgusted with it. Yeah, totally out of that scene. Thank God. But I think especially there's the guy who plays my ex-boyfriend that ended up being, it was triggering a little bit because it was a little bit too close to home, but also therapeutic how I got him back. I mean, like how Will let me get him back, which was just great. So it was most of the part, it was really therapeutic for me. It's a closure, I think.
I was just about to say, I know, like the first thing that came to mind was out of all the crazy that I made her do for this film was it was like something as simple as just like a tense dialogue scene was the one where she was like, Will, this is a bit too much for me right now. I think I need to take a break. But like if I make her crawl through a mosh pit or like run across a mud pit with like ATVs and four-wheelers spinning around her, she's like, okay, yeah, I'll do it again. No problem. But just a tense dialogue would be the thing where she's like, look, man, I need a break. Like,
What were some challenges or like some stuff that while shooting, it's like, you look at the script or you look at the shots you guys shoot on that day that it's like, oh, that's going to be easy. And then you get to it, it's like, oh, this was a bigger pain in the butt than I anticipated.
I would say obviously the thing with the ex-boyfriend, some of it wasn't necessary like the dialogue or anything like that. We had some long shoot days and there was a lot of dialogue. And I think I put more pressure on myself to try to get the dialogue right. That kind of made it tougher. But I would say probably the mud rave, whenever we were out there, these were real people and whatever. And some of them didn't take too kindly to us being there. They just didn't understand what we were trying to shoot, as well, whatever. So I think I kind of was nervous I didn't want to piss anybody off or, make us like not be able to shoot there or anything like that. So that was kind of nerve wracking. And that was what we shot first. So just digging into that first was kind of difficult. And I would say probably one of the bar scene, but it wasn't the dialogue or anything. It was more the people around us because there were real customers in there. And this one guy was drunk and he was like saying that we should like double tip the waitress and everything because we're like digging into her. It was like a whole thing. And I just don't like conflict just from the world that I've lived in. I just don't like the conflict because it can just get out of hand or whatever. But that's really about it, I would say.
I think to further color what Rocky is saying is like, you're like, oh, you look at the day and the plan you have and the shot list and blah, blah, blah. And this, like, so I went to the AFI Conservatory for grad school. And so, like, in my years there, I got very used to just like the utmost amount of prep for a film. And like, you have your shot list and then you even like rehearse your shots on an iPhone and just try to get everything like so to a T before you go and shoot. And then Junkie is like the definition of guerrilla grassroots, like indie filmmaking, because there was not a damn thing in the film that really like we had time to plan beforehand. Like, because the turnaround from when I had finished up the script to wanting to shoot was with that festival coming up called Redneck Rave in Kentucky. And it was a month away. And it like, so the climax of the film is actually the first thing we shot. So I was like, we have to make it to this festival on time. But I never had a shot list made. Like I didn't have time to prepare one. The first time any of the crew saw the locations was when we like showed up to shoot them. Like no lighting plans for the cinematography department. Like I guess really the only people who had prep time ahead of us were production design. They would get to a place before us, like a house, and dress it out, but then none of the rest of us would really know what we were getting into until we got there. And then, so as if that's not bad enough, you add on something like shooting in a festival or a bar where you can't control the actual patrons there around you. And we had some interesting encounters because of that, for sure. Some did not make the film.
Some guy just popping up, y'all making a TV film? Can I be in?
Oh, dude,
Exactly.
it was either exactly that or the exact opposite. Like, y'all don't need to be doing that shit here. Like, oh, yeah, we got both sides of the coin.
Well, that last scene is like really emotionally charged, I would guess. And Rocky, what's that like being to have that being the first thing you shoot? Like, you would think that you would need to ease into that, but the way it's portrayed in the movie anyway, you kind of nailed it. But that seems like a scary kind of first. Oh, we're gonna do this. Oh man, come on, can I
Yeah.
stretch out first?
And just to make sure Rocky avoids some hardcore spoilers, we're referring specifically to the emotional stuff at the rave,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Okay, not the ending.
No, no.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, no, I think because the best thing that Will did was we had, had to drive all the way to Kentucky, and Rhett, who plays my son, he rode with me. So it was just me and him. Him and I had never like really met. So we had that time in the car to like really build a rapport and whatever. And so that made it a lot more comfortable. But yeah, it was unnerving, especially with all the damn ATVs and and they're loud and people are like just spaced and you don't know what they're going to do. And, you're trying to get in there. And I would just be like, all right, well, just let me stand here for a minute. Let me close my eyes, get myself into okay. And then we'd go, and Will could tell that I would be getting uneasy. He's like, Rocky, just go with it. Just ignore, that around you or whatever. And so eventually that got better. But I really think that the ride with me and Rhett, like, it just built that relationship. And I think that's what that calmed me down.
Yeah. And of course, there's a ton of detail in this. There's one, I don't know if this was on purpose, but it came to mind. There's a part with some broken glass on the ground and bare feet walking over that. Was that a Die Hard reference?
No, I would not say Die Hard. I'm trying to think of there is an exact thing that had popped in my head. Oh my gosh, what am I thinking of? You know what? Now I honestly couldn't tell you, but I knew that I feel like what I'm envisioning is someone crawling over glass, that I feel like I remember being the thing that to me, I was like, that would be cool, but I can at least say for that sequence, for our like one of our bigger action sequences, that was one thing so when we shot the film, we didn't even have enough. When I say indie guerrilla, like we didn't even have enough money to shoot a whole film, and we didn't have enough budget to complete the film. So it was shot like over the course of a year, and the first shoot was only up until we ran out of money, basically, and we got maybe around half of the film shot at that point. But we had thought that scene you're referring to is one that we thought we had finished, and I'm glad that we kind of got to have the pause and take it back to the editing room and then see what we had, because then that was one where I was at least like, oh, we could totally like punch this thing up a notch. And it was like details like that of just like, also the fact that the sequence leads to so much glass being scattered all over a floor and there are people fighting and rolling in that are barefoot and in short shorts and whatnot. And I was, just felt like maybe there should at least be a shot that addresses the fact that like they're walking over this. But I also thought it just made Rocky look more badass, of like, we're acknowledging she's doing it, but she's not acting like it hurts because she's so fired up in the middle of this big fight sequence of hers.
And so what was it like? How did you like raise all the money to make this? Because you said you kind of had enough to shoot half of it, then I had to raise more, I imagine.
Yeah. Well, and especially, like I said, coming from film school, and even before that, I was like making short films for fun basically my whole life. And then like once you move out to LA and you start realizing how insane even short film budgets can be, I also knew that kind of like the glass ceiling to being able to make features is that it's that catch-22 where you're like, okay, I'm ready to make my first feature, and you go to people with it, and people are like, well, no one wants to let you make your first feature unless they can see that you already know how to make a feature. And you're like, well, how can I show you if you're not allowing me to make the first one? So realizing I could like do a short again or something like that, I thought like, okay, well, instead of make short films anymore, I would rather make pieces of a feature, and I'll just see how long it'll take me to get done. Because even going to AFI, like David Lynch is alumni from there, and everyone knew like he shot Eraserhead over the course of 5 years. So the first bit we went in with was like savings of mine, and then because I'd had a short right before called Blue Square Heart that like qualified for the Oscars, and so that helped like some friends and people I knew be a bit more willing to throw some money at like the next thing I wanted to do. But that built up like the first little chunk, and then completely ran out. I had to pause. I had to come back to LA, get a job. Like, and then yeah, because we basically put the assembly together of all the footage of the one half of the film we had. And then that was something very palpable we could show people. And then there was even more of a response of like, oh, there's something really promising here. Like, oh, this footage is really exciting. And then even more people were willing to throw in money. And then I, of course, have to acknowledge that I also had a grandfather who passed away, God rest his soul. And then I got a little bit of inheritance thrown my way from that. And then the genius that I am, I have immediately now just gambled it all away on this film. So
But I hope it pays off because the movie's fantastic. What's kind of the release schedule? Because it says here that it's premiering at AFI on October 26th, but is there like a wider release plan, or do you not know that yet?
we're currently in the middle of figuring out this whole release process. So we premiere Sunday, October 26th. About 2 weeks after that, it's like the weekend of November 7th, I think, we're going to have an East Coast premiere at Maryland Film Festival in Baltimore. I'd had a really great experience at that film festival before. They're lovely. And so like they're playing the film twice out there that like second weekend of November. And then from there, we are figuring out, it's like we're literally in the midst of talks with the whole slew of sales agents, distributors, that type of thing. And so, yeah, obviously hoping to get it as wide as possible, as soon as possible. Where exactly remains to be seen. But yeah, like I said, this thing is as indie as it comes because it basically was a return to shooting something with friends in my backyard of Georgia. And so the fact that it's even come as far as people being willing to release it is crazy to me, but I'm also learning a lot about how indie film distribution works at the same time.
And you also got Patty Jenkins' name attached to it, so that's gotta help open some doors, I imagine.
Yeah, for sure. That's her first film, Monster, has always been like one of my favorites since childhood and was just very influential on me. And I think it's a large part of why she responded to this one. But yeah, it doesn't hurt.
Well, yeah, can't wait for this movie to go wide for everyone to see it because it really is fantastic. It's got the drama as you would expect, but it's got a lot of humor, great characters. And I don't know how you do the Oscar thing, but Rocky I wouldn't hate for Rocky to get a nomination, but I don't control that. But
I'm right there with you, man.
but I want to just get a film recommendation from each of you, either a movie that's personal to you or a movie that's like, this is really good and no one talks about it.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, wow.
And yes, it can be Ninja Turtles if that's what you're feeling.
I'll say an old one, but people do talk about it. But whenever it first came out, it was not talked about at all. But one of my favorite movies of all time is Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah.
I mean, that is just a phenomenal. I know every word, but yeah, that I would say that's my absolute favorite movie. I watched an interview with Morgan Freeman not too long ago, and he was talking about it. But yeah, that's the first thing that came to mind for me.
I'll say, yeah, and I guess, and not just as a shameless plug, but I will definitely say Patty Jenkins' Monster because yeah, I first saw that right when it first came out when I was like 12, and even as like a queer kid growing up in the South in the closet and all that, it was like I didn't know why I attached so much to the film, and I actually made my boyfriend like watch it for the first time the other day in preparation for going to this festival, and it was like suddenly very easy to realize why it's so influential on me. And it's because I truthfully believe that film is like an overlooked very radical act of empathy to go to a subject that we're so conditioned to have the opposite of empathy for as soon as we hear their label, which is like monster or serial killer. And that's definitely the exact same drive of me going at a project called Junkie, and like what's another member of society we dismiss so easily with a label, and like let's try to unpack all the layers of who that person is as like an actual human and not that simple label. So yeah, Monster rocks. If anyone hasn't seen it yet.
Well, those are excellent choices.
Very good.
Well, Rocky, thanks for joining me, and congratulations on the movie. And yeah, really hope everyone gets a chance to see this because I'm verbally filleting you all interview, but this movie is absolutely fantastic, and congratulations on it.
Thank
you. Thank you so much for having us, Erik.